The rain was coming down hard that Tuesday evening, the kind of rain that makes you want to stay home wrapped in a warm blanket. But staying home wasn't an option for Maya Torres. She had bills to pay, and more importantly, her mother needed her. So there she was, tying her apron strings for the second time that day, ready to start another shift at the Riverside Grill. Maya had been working at the restaurant for almost 2 years now, but the last 3 months had been different. Different because everything changed the day her mother collapsed in their small apartment kitchen. The doctors said it was her heart. They used big medical words that Maya didn't fully understand. But she understood one thing perfectly clear. Her mother needed treatment, expensive treatment, and their basic insurance wasn't going to cover most of it. That's when the double shift started. Morning shift, go home for a few hours, then back for the evening shift. Some days she worked so much her feet felt like they were on fire. But every time she felt like giving up, she'd think about her mother's smile, the way she used to sing while cooking breakfast, and somehow Maya would find the strength to keep going. The Riverside Grill wasn't fancy, but it wasn't a dive either. It was the kind of place where families came for birthday dinners and couples stopped by for a casual date night. The food was good, the prices were reasonable, and the tips were decent enough. Maya had always liked working there. Her co-workers were kind, and the regular customers knew her by name. On this particular rainy evening, the restaurant was quieter than usual. People didn't want to go out in this weather, and Maya couldn't blame them. She was wiping down table 7 when she heard the bell above the entrance door chime. She looked up to see an elderly man shuffling in, his clothes soaked from the rain. He looked to be in his 70s, maybe older. His jacket was thin and worn at the elbows, and his shoes squeaked against the floor, leaving small puddles with each step. He stood at the entrance for a moment, water dripping from his gray hair, looking around the restaurant as if he wasn't sure he should be there. Maya grabbed a menu and walked over with a warm smile. "Good evening, sir. Just one today?" The old man nodded, not quite meeting her eyes. There was something about his posture, the way his shoulders hunched forward, that made Maya's heart squeeze a little. She'd seen that look before, on her own mother's face when money was tight and pride was all they had left. "Right this way," Maya said gently, leading him to a booth by the window. She handed him the menu and a clean napkin. "Can I start you off with something to drink?" The man opened the menu and Maya noticed his hands. They were weathered and slightly shaky, the hands of someone who'd worked hard their whole life. He studied the menu carefully, his eyes moving slowly across each item, lingering on the prices. Just water for now, please," he said quietly. His voice was soft, almost apologetic. "Of course, I'll be right back with that." Maya walked to the server station, filled a glass with ice water, and added a slice of lemon. When she returned, the old man was still staring at the menu, his finger tracing down the right side where the prices were listed. She set the water down gently. "Take your time," she said. "No rush at all." But even as she moved to check on her other tables, Maya kept glancing back at him. Something was off. The way he kept pulling out his wallet, opening it, counting what was inside, then putting it away again. He did this 3 times in 5 minutes. When Maya came back to take his order, she noticed the wallet was still on the table. It was old and cracked, and even from where she stood she could see it didn't contain much. "A few bills, some loose change. Have you decided, sir?" Maya asked, keeping her voice light and friendly. The man cleared his throat. What's the cheapest thing you have?" Maya's heart sank. She looked down at her notepad, not because she needed to check the menu, but because she needed a second to compose herself. She'd been there. Not so long ago, before this job, she'd sat in restaurants counting pennies, trying to figure out if she could afford more than just coffee. "Well," Maya said, "we have a side of bread for $2 and coffee is $1.50. The man nodded slowly, pulling the crumpled bills from his wallet and laying them on the table. He counted them out carefully. 5 $1 bills and a handful of quarters and dimes. "I'll have the coffee and the bread, please," he said. And there was something in his voice, a mixture of dignity and defeat, that made Maya want to cry. "You got it," she said, writing it down even though she'd never forget this order. Maya walked back to the kitchen, but her mind was racing. She thought about her own mother, about how many times they'd had to make impossible choices. Rice or medicine, electric bill or groceries. She thought about the kindness strangers had shown them over the years. The neighbor who'd accidentally cooked too much dinner. The pharmacist who'd mysteriously found a discount coupon. She looked at the old man through the kitchen window. He was sitting very still, his hands folded on the table, staring out at the rain. He looked so alone. Maya made a decision. She walked over to the head chef, Tommy, who was flipping burgers on the grill. "Hey, Tommy, I need a favor." Tommy looked up, wiping sweat from his forehead. "What's up?" "That old man at table 7, he ordered just coffee and bread, but I want to give him a full meal. The roasted chicken special with mashed potatoes and vegetables." "I'll pay for it." Tommy frowned. "Maya, you don't have to do that, I know. But I want to. Can you make it happen?" Tommy studied her face for a moment, then nodded. "Yeah, sure. But you shouldn't have to pay for it. Let me talk to the manager." "No," Maya said quickly. "I don't want to make a big thing out of it, just—" "Can you help me?" "I'll tell him the kitchen made an extra order by mistake." Tommy smiled, a knowing smile. "You got a good heart, kid. Yeah, I'll make him the best chicken special he's ever had." 10 minutes later, Maya carried out a tray with the coffee, bread, and the full chicken dinner. The old man looked up in surprise as she set the plates down. "Sir, I hope you don't mind, but the kitchen accidentally prepared an extra dinner tonight, and it would just go to waste. Would you be willing to help us out and eat it? No charge, of course." The old man stared at the food, then at Maya, then back at the food. His eyes started to shimmer with tears. Are you sure?" he whispered. "Absolutely sure," Maya said with a warm smile. "We can't let good food go to waste, and honestly, you'd be doing us a favor." The old man's lip trembled slightly. "That's very kind of you, miss. Very kind indeed." "Enjoy your meal," Maya said softly. And she meant it with her whole heart. As she walked away, she didn't see the way the old man watched her, didn't notice the thoughtful expression that crossed his face, or the small smile that played at the corners of his mouth. She was already thinking about her next table, and how she was going to explain to her roommate why she'd be short on rent money this month. Sometimes, kindness costs us something, but Maya had learned from her mother that some things were worth more than money. And dignity, compassion, treating people like they mattered, those things were priceless. The old man ate slowly, like someone who hadn't had a proper meal in days. Maya found herself checking on him more than her other tables, not in an obvious way, but just making sure he was okay. Each time she walked by, she'd refill his coffee or ask if he needed anything else. Each time he'd look up at her with those kind, tired eyes and say, "No thank you, miss. This is more than enough." There was something about him that reminded Maya of her own father, who'd passed away when she was 16. Maybe it was the gentle way he spoke, or the way his hands shook slightly when he lifted his coffee cup. Whatever it was, she felt protective of him, like he was someone's grandfather who should be home safe, not out alone in the rain. "How's everything tasting?" Maya asked during one of her pass-bys. The old man looked up and smiled, a real, genuine smile that reached his eyes. "It's wonderful. Best meal I've had in a long time." He paused, then added quietly, "You're very kind, miss. The world needs more people like you." Maya felt her cheeks warm. "It's nothing, really. Just food that would have been thrown out anyway." But they both knew that wasn't quite true. The old man didn't call her out on the little lie, though. Instead, he asked, "Do you like working here?" Maya pulled out a chair and sat down for a moment. The dinner rush hadn't started yet, and her other tables were content. "I do, actually. The people are nice, and it pays the bills." She hesitated, then added, "Well, most of the bills anyway." "Most of the bills," the old man repeated thoughtfully. "That's a familiar phrase. I used to say that a lot when I was younger." Something about the way he said it made Maya curious. "What did you do?" "For work, I mean, if you don't mind me asking." The old man took a sip of his coffee, and for a moment Maya thought she saw something flicker in his expression, something sharp and aware that contrasted with his humble appearance, but then it was gone, and he was just a tired old man again. "Oh, I worked in restaurants most of my life," he said. "Started washing dishes when I was 14, worked my way up over the years." "Really?" Maya leaned forward, interested. "That's kind of my dream, actually. I mean, not just working in restaurants, but maybe one day opening my own place. Something small, cozy. A cafe, maybe." The old man's eyes lit up. "Tell me about it. What kind of cafe?" And just like that, Maya found herself talking to this stranger about dreams she rarely shared with anyone. She told him about how she imagined a place where everyone would feel welcome, where the coffee was good but affordable, where people could sit and read or work on their laptops without feeling rushed to leave. A place where if someone came in and didn't have enough money, they wouldn't be turned away. "My mom always said that food brings people together," Maya explained, And I guess I want to create a space where that's true. Where it doesn't matter if you're wearing a fancy suit or if your shoes have holes in them. Everyone deserves a warm meal and a kind word, you know? The old man nodded slowly, and Maya could swear she saw moisture in his eyes again. Your mother sounds like a wise woman. She is, Maya said, and then her voice got quieter. She's sick right now. That's actually why I'm working so much. The medical bills are, well, they're a lot. I'm sorry to hear that, the old man said, and the sympathy in his voice sounded genuine. It's hard taking care of family when money's tight. Yeah, Maya agreed. But you do what you have to do, right? She's taken care of me my whole life. Now it's my turn. They talked for a while longer, and Maya was surprised by how easy it was to talk to him. He asked thoughtful questions about her mother, about her dreams for the cafe, about what she loved most about working with people. He listened in a way that made her feel like her words actually mattered, like he was really hearing her, and not just waiting for his turn to talk. When another customer signaled for service, Maya stood up reluctantly. I should get back to work. Can I get you anything else? Dessert, maybe? We have really good apple pie. The old man shook his head. No thank you, miss. This was perfect. He reached into his pocket and pulled out something small. Before you go, I want you to have this. He handed her a business card. It was worn and slightly bent at the corners, like it had been in his wallet for a long time. Maya took it, glancing down at it quickly. There was a name and a phone number, but before she could read it properly, another table called for her attention. Thank you, she said, slipping the card into her apron pocket without really looking at it. I'll keep it safe. Please do, the old man said. You never know when you might need it. Maya hurried off to her other tables, and the evening started to pick up. More customers came in, shaking off rain and looking for warm food. She got busy with orders and didn't notice when the old man quietly finished his meal. When she finally got a moment to breathe and went back to check on him, he was standing by the table, his thin jacket buttoned up, ready to face the rain again. He'd left his water glass and coffee cup neatly stacked, and the plates were pushed to the edge of the table to make it easier for her to clear. You heading out? Maya asked. I am. Thank you again for everything. You have a good heart, young lady. Don't let the world change that. There was something about the way he said it, so serious and intentional, that made Maya pause. I won't, she promised. The old man smiled one more time, then turned and walked toward the door. Maya watched him go, something tugging at her chest. She almost called out, almost asked if he had somewhere warm to go, if he needed a ride somewhere. But the dinner rush was hitting hard now, and her manager was already giving her a look that said, get back to work. Later that night, after the old man had gone and the restaurant had returned to its normal chaos, Maya went to ring up his table. That's when she realized something. The coffee and bread he'd ordered came to $3.50. But when she checked with Tommy, the chicken special cost $12. Add tax, and the total meal was almost $19. Maya's heart sank as reality hit her. She hadn't really thought about the exact cost when she'd made her impulsive decision to buy him the meal. She'd just known it was the right thing to do. But now, staring at the total, she felt the weight of it. $18.50. That was her grocery money for the next 3 days. That was the copay for her mother's next prescription refill. But then she thought about the old man's face when she'd set that plate down in front of him. The way his eyes had filled with tears, the genuine gratitude in his voice. And she knew, even with her tight budget and mounting bills, that she'd made the right choice. Maya pulled out her tip money from her apron. She counted out $19, her hands steady despite the little voice in her head telling her she couldn't afford this. She walked over to another server, Lisa, who was working the register. Hey, can you ring this up for table 7? The old man who was sitting by the window. Lisa looked confused. I thought Tommy said you were comping that meal. No, Maya said quickly, pressing the bills into Lisa's hand. Just ring it up normal. I've got it. Lisa shrugged and processed the payment. Maya watched the cash go into the register, watched nearly a full shift's worth of tips disappear. Her bank account was going to be dangerously low this week. She'd have to eat ramen for a few days, maybe skip a few meals. Her roommate was going to ask why she was short on rent again, but somehow she felt okay about it. More than okay, actually. She felt like she'd done something that mattered. Maya reached into her apron pocket, remembering the business card the old man had given her. She pulled it out, finally taking a moment to really look at it. The name printed there meant nothing to her. Just a name and a phone number. She almost threw it away, but something made her fold it carefully and tuck it into her wallet instead. Kindness has a way of coming back around, the old man had said. Maya didn't believe in karma or luck or any of that stuff, but as she went back to work, clearing tables and taking orders, she felt lighter somehow. Like she'd done something her father would have been proud of. Like she'd honored the values her mother had taught her. The rain kept falling outside and Maya kept working. Just another Tuesday night at the Riverside Grill. Just another shift in a long string of shifts. She had no idea that the old man she'd helped was going to change her life. No idea that the simple act of buying a stranger dinner would lead to something far bigger than she could have imagined. Sometimes, the most important moments in our lives look completely ordinary when they're happening. And that Tuesday night, as Maya wiped down tables and counted her remaining tips, she had no clue that everything was about to change. 2 weeks passed, and Maya had almost forgotten about the old man in the rain. Almost, but not quite. Every now and then, when she was clearing table 7 by the window, she'd remember his kind eyes and wonder if he was doing okay. She hoped he'd found somewhere warm to stay, that he was eating proper meals. Life at the Riverside Grill had been strange lately. There were rumors flying around, the kind of whispers that happen in every workplace when something big is about to change. The owner, Mr. Peterson, had finally retired after running the place for 30 years. He'd sold the restaurant, and supposedly the new owner was taking over any day now. Nobody knew much about the new boss. Some people said it was a big restaurant corporation that would change everything. Others heard it was some rich businessman who owned a bunch of places. The uncertainty made everyone nervous. Maya tried not to think about it too much. She had enough to worry about with her mother's upcoming surgery and the mountain of bills that seemed to grow taller every week. On a Thursday morning, Maya's manager, Carol, caught her right as she was starting her shift. "Hey, Maya, there's a staff meeting at 2 o'clock today." "Everyone needs to be there." Maya's stomach dropped. "Everyone? Is everything okay?" Carol shrugged, but her face looked worried. "New owner wants to meet the staff. That's all I know." The morning shift dragged on forever. Maya couldn't focus properly. She mixed up orders, forgot to refill coffee cups, and nearly dropped a tray of dishes. Her coworker Danny noticed and bumped her shoulder gently during a quiet moment. "You okay? You seem stressed." "Just worried about the meeting," Maya admitted. "What if the new owner starts cutting hours? Or firing people?" "I can't lose this job, Danny, I really can't." "Hey, don't think like that," Danny said, though he looked worried too. "Maybe the new boss will be great." You never know, but Maya did know. She knew that when businesses changed hands, it was usually the little people who suffered. The servers, the dishwashers, the cooks who showed up every day and did their jobs. Those were the people who got let go to cut costs or increase efficiency. By the time 2 o'clock rolled around, Maya's hands were shaking. She untied her apron and headed toward the private dining room in the back, the one they usually reserved for birthday parties and small celebrations. A dozen other staff members were already gathering there, all looking as nervous as she felt. The room was set up differently than usual. There was a long table at the front and chairs arranged in rows facing it. It reminded Maya of a courtroom, which didn't help her anxiety at all. She took a seat near the back, next to Lisa from the register. "Did you hear anything about the new owner?" Maya whispered. Lisa shook her head. "Nothing. Carol's been tight-lipped about everything." Carol walked in then, followed by someone Maya couldn't quite see. The manager moved to the side, and that's when Maya's whole world tilted sideways. Walking into the room, wearing a crisp navy suit and looking completely different yet somehow exactly the same, was the old man, the man from the rain, the man whose dinner she'd bought. The man she'd talked to about her dreams of opening a cafe, except he didn't look like that struggling elderly man anymore. He stood straight and confident. His gray hair was neatly combed. His eyes were sharp and alert. He looked healthy, successful, and completely in control. Maya felt like she couldn't breathe. Her mind was racing, trying to make sense of what she was seeing. It couldn't be the same person, but it was. She knew it was. The old man's eyes scanned the room, passing over the nervous faces of the staff until they landed on Maya. For just a second, the briefest moment, he smiled. Not a big smile, just a small acknowledgement that said, "Yes, it's me." Maya felt her face go hot. Oh no, no. What had she done? Had she insulted him that night? Had her pity been offensive? Was that why he was looking at her? Was she about to get fired in front of everyone? Carol cleared her throat. Everyone, I'd like you to meet Mr. Chen. He's the new owner of the Riverside Grill. Mr. Chen. The name from the business card Maya had tucked into her wallet and never called. She felt like the world's biggest fool. Mr. Chen stepped forward, his hands clasped in front of him. When he spoke, his voice was warm but carried authority. Thank you all for coming. I know change can be scary, and I'm sure you all have questions about what's going to happen to this restaurant and to your jobs. The room was silent. Everyone was holding their breath. Let me start by telling you a little about myself. Mr. Chen continued. I came to this country 42 years ago with nothing. I didn't speak English well. I had no money, no connections, no safety net. I slept in my car for 3 months while I worked 2 jobs trying to save enough for an apartment. Maya watched him speak, mesmerized. This successful businessman had really been that struggling immigrant. It seemed impossible. I washed dishes in restaurants, Mr. Chen went on. I cleaned floors. I worked 16-hour days. And you know what kept me going? The few people who showed me kindness when I had nothing. The cook who'd slip me extra food. The manager who gave me a chance when no one else would. Those small acts of humanity saved my life. He paused, and the emotion in his voice was real. Maya could see that he wasn't just telling them a story. He was sharing something that still mattered to him, even after all these years. I built a business over the decades. I now own 12 restaurants across 3 states. And before I purchase any new establishment, I have a tradition. Mr. Chen's eyes swept across the room again. I visit anonymously. I dress humbly. I come in as someone who appears to have nothing, and I watch. I watch how the staff treats someone they think can't help them, can't leave a big tip, can't do anything for them in return. Maya's heart was pounding so hard she thought everyone could hear it. Several staff members were glancing around, probably wondering if any of them had served him. Most places fail this test, Mr. Chen said quietly, and there was sadness in his voice. Most places the staff ignores poor customers or rushes them out. Some are outright rude. They save their smiles and good service for people who look like they have money. He let that sink in for a moment. The room was so quiet you could hear the kitchen sounds from down the hall. But this restaurant, Mr. Chen said, and now there was warmth in his voice. This restaurant has something special. This place has people who understand what hospitality really means. Maya felt tears prickling at her eyes. She knew where this was going, and she wanted to disappear into the floor. 2 weeks ago, I came here on a rainy night, Mr. Chen continued. I was dressed poorly, counting my change, able to afford only coffee and bread. And one of your servers, one of your teammates, saw me, really saw me, not as a potential tip or a bother, but as a human being who was struggling. Every head in the room turned, looking around to see who he was talking about. Maya kept her eyes down, her face burning. Miss Torres, Mr. Chen said gently. Maya's head snapped up. She couldn't avoid it now. Would you stand up, please? On shaking legs, Maya stood. She could feel everyone staring at her. Danny gave her an encouraging nod, but Maya felt like she might throw up. Mr. Chen smiled at her, a kind smile that reminded her of that rainy night. You told me the kitchen had made an extra meal by mistake. You said it would just go to waste, so I might as well eat it. Maya nodded, not trusting her voice. That was a beautiful lie, Mr. Chen said, and there was no judgment in his tone, only respect. Because I found out later that you paid for that meal yourself. $18.50 out of your own tips. Tips you needed because you're working double shifts to pay for your mother's medical treatment. Maya heard several people gasp. She saw Lisa's eyes go wide beside her. You didn't know who I was, Mr. Chen continued. You had no reason to think that kindness would ever come back to you. You just saw someone in need and you helped. No hesitation. No expectation of reward. Tears were rolling down Maya's face now, and she didn't even try to stop them. That's the kind of person I want working in my restaurants, Mr. Chen said, addressing the whole room now. That's the kind of culture I want to build. Because businesses aren't just about profit margins and customer counts. They're about the lives we touch and the difference we make. He turned back to Maya. Miss Torres, I've been observing this restaurant for the past 2 weeks. I've watched you work. I've seen how you treat every customer, whether they order the most expensive item or just a cup of coffee. I've seen how hard you work, how you encourage your coworkers, how you stay late to help even when you're exhausted. Maya couldn't speak. She just stood there, tears streaming, wondering what was coming next. "I'd like to talk with you after this meeting," Mr. Chen said, privately. "There are some things I'd like to discuss." He turned back to address everyone else, talking about his plans for the restaurant, assuring them that no one would lose their jobs, that he believed in rewarding hard work and loyalty. But Maya barely heard any of it. Her mind was spinning, her heart was racing, and all she could think was that somehow, impossibly, that rainy Tuesday night had led to this moment. When the meeting finally ended, people rushed up to Maya, congratulating her, asking her what had happened. Danny hugged her. Lisa squeezed her hand. But through it all, Maya kept glancing at Mr. Chen, who was waiting patiently at the front of the room. Finally, when the crowd cleared, he gestured for her to follow him. And as Maya walked toward whatever came next, she remembered something her mother used to say: "Do good and forget it. Do bad and remember it." She'd done something good without thinking about it, and now, somehow, it was coming back to her in ways she never could have imagined. Maya followed Mr. Chen into the small office at the back of the restaurant, her legs feeling like they might give out at any moment. Her mind was going in 1,000 different directions. Was she in trouble? Was this some kind of elaborate way to fire her for lying to a customer, even if that customer turned out to be the owner? She'd heard of businesses doing weird things like that. Mr. Chen held the door open for her and gestured to a comfortable chair across from the desk. "Please sit down." Maya sat, her hands gripping the armrest so tightly her knuckles turned white. Mr. Chen took his seat on the other side of the desk, and for a moment, he just looked at her. Not in a scary way, but like he was seeing her, really seeing her the same way he had that rainy night. "You look terrified," he said gently. "Please don't be. You're not in any trouble, Maya." "May I call you Maya?" She nodded, not quite trusting her voice yet. "Maya, I want to start by apologizing," Mr. Chen said, which was the last thing she expected to hear. "I know my test might seem deceptive, and in a way it is, but I learned a long time ago that you can't really know people by interviewing them or reading their resumes. You know them by watching how they act when they think no one important is looking." "I understand," Maya managed to say, her voice barely above a whisper. "That night, when you bought my dinner," Mr. Chen continued, leaning forward slightly, "I was moved. Truly moved. It wasn't just the meal itself, though. I was genuinely hungry. I'd been visiting restaurants all day in my test disguise, and most places had been—" He paused, searching for the word. "Disappointing. But you were different." Maya felt her eyes welling up again. She'd cried more in the past hour than she had in months. "After I left that night, I did something I rarely do," Mr. Chen said. "I came back, not in disguise this time, just as myself. I talked to Carol, your manager. I asked about you. She told me you'd been working here for 2 years, that you were reliable, always on time, that customers requested your section specifically. She told me about your double shifts and that your mother was sick." Maya's throat tightened. She hadn't known Carol had noticed all that. "So I kept watching," Mr. Chen continued. "For 2 weeks I had someone observe the restaurant at different times. I saw you work those double shifts. I saw you stay late to help Danny when he was overwhelmed. I saw you split your tips with the new server when she had a slow night. I watched you treat a homeless man who came in asking for water the same way you'd treat someone in a business suit. I just treat people the way I'd want to be treated," Maya said softly. "Exactly," Mr. Chen said, and his smile was warm. "That's exactly it. And that's incredibly rare, Maya, especially in someone so young who has every reason to be bitter about life being unfair." Maya didn't know what to say to that. Life was unfair, but she'd never thought being bitter would help anything. Mr. Chen opened a folder on his desk. "I want to offer you something, and I need you to listen to the whole thing before you respond." "Can you do that?" Maya nodded, her heart hammering in her chest. "First, I'd like to offer you a position as assistant manager of the Riverside Grill. The salary would be 3 times what you're making now as a server. You'd work regular hours. No more double shifts unless you choose to. The position comes with full health benefits, and yes, that includes coverage for family members." Maya's mouth fell open. 3 times her salary? Health benefits for her mother? It didn't seem real. "Wait," Mr. Chen said, holding up a hand. "I'm not finished. There was more?" Maya felt dizzy. "The assistant manager position would be your training ground. I'm not just hiring you for what you can do now, Maya. I'm investing in what you can become. See, you told me something that night that stuck with me. You told me about your dream of opening a cafe where everyone feels welcome, where people aren't judged by their appearance or their bank account. Maya had almost forgotten she'd shared that with him. It felt like a lifetime ago. "I've been in this business for 40 years, Mr. Chen said, and I've learned that the best restaurants aren't built on fancy recipes or expensive decor. They're built on heart. They're built by people who genuinely care about making others feel valued and welcome. That's what you have, Maya. That's what I saw in you." He pulled out another document from the folder. "So here's my full proposal. You work as assistant manager for 2 years. During that time, I'll teach you everything I know about running a restaurant. How to manage staff, how to handle suppliers, how to read financial statements, how to create a menu, how to market, all of it. You'll learn the business inside and out." Maya was shaking now, but Mr. Chen kept going. "After 2 years, if you still want to open that cafe of yours, I'll finance it. We'll form a partnership under my restaurant group. I'll provide the startup capital, the resources, the connections. You'll maintain majority ownership 60%. Once you've learned the business and the cafe is profitable, it'll be yours to run as you see fit." The room seemed to spin. Maya gripped the armrests harder, trying to ground herself in reality. This couldn't be happening. Things like this didn't happen to people like her. Maya started, but her voice cracked. "I don't understand. Why would you do this for me?" Mr. Chen's expression grew serious. "Let me tell you a story. When I first came to this country, I was lost. Everything was foreign and scary. I was working at a Chinese restaurant, washing dishes for cash under the table because I didn't have proper papers yet. One night I made a mistake and broke an entire tray of expensive plates. I thought I'd be fired on the spot." He paused, lost in the memory. "But the owner, an old man named Mr. Liu, he didn't yell. He didn't fire me. Instead, he sat me down and told me that everyone makes mistakes. He said the measure of a person isn't whether they stumble, but whether they get back up. Then he did something I'll never forget. He paid for those plates himself and told me I'd work them off slowly, just a little from each paycheck so I wouldn't be destroyed financially." Maya listened, captivated. "Mr. Liu became my mentor," Mr. Chen continued. "He taught me the restaurant business. When I'd saved enough money and wanted to open my own place, he loaned me the rest. He believed in me when I had nothing, when I was nobody. That belief changed my entire life." Mr. Chen looked directly at Maya. "Mr. Liu died 15 years ago. I never got to fully repay him for what he did for me. But he told me something before he passed. He said, 'You don't pay kindness back, you pay it forward.' So that's what I'm doing, Maya. I'm paying forward what was given to me." Tears were streaming down Maya's face now. She thought about her mother, about the medical bills, about working herself to exhaustion and still barely making ends meet. She thought about her little dream of a cafe that had seemed so impossible, so far away. "I'm looking at you," Mr. Chen said softly, "and I see myself 40 years ago. Someone with a good heart, working hard, dreaming big, but trapped by circumstances. Someone who just needs a chance, a real chance. I can give you that chance, Maya. The question is, will you take it?" Maya tried to speak, but sobs choked her words. All she could do was nod over and over, tears falling onto her lap. Mr. Chen smiled, and his eyes were misty too. "There's one condition, though." Maya looked up, suddenly worried. "When you're successful, when you have your cafe and it's thriving, I want you to do what Mr. Liu did for me. Find someone with a good heart who's struggling. Give them a chance. Pay it forward. Can you promise me that?" "Yes," Maya managed to say through her tears. "Yes, I promise." Mr. Chen stood up and extended his hand across the desk. "Then welcome to the team, Assistant Manager Torres." Maya stood on shaky legs and shook his hand. His grip was firm and warm, the handshake of someone sealing a real deal, making a real promise. "There's paperwork to fill out." "Of course," Mr. Chen said, his tone becoming more businesslike but still kind. "HR will handle all that. Your new position starts next Monday. Take the rest of this week off, paid. Go spend time with your mother. Tell her the good news. Tell her about the health insurance." Maya nodded, unable to form words. The reality of it was starting to sink in. Health insurance for her mother. No more choosing between medicine and groceries. No more double shifts that left her so tired she could barely stand. A chance to learn, to grow, to actually build toward her dream instead of just surviving day to day. "Thank you," she finally whispered. "Thank you so much. I won't let you down." "I know you won't," Mr. Chen said confidently. "You know how I know? Because you didn't let that old man down on a rainy Tuesday night when you thought no one would ever know what you did. That's the kind of person you are, Maya. That's why I'm betting on you." As Maya left the office and walked back through the restaurant in a daze, her co-workers crowded around her, asking what happened, if everything was okay. All she could do was smile through her tears and say, "Everything's going to be okay. Everything's going to be more than okay." That night, when Maya got home and told her mother what had happened, they both cried. They cried for the struggles that were ending, for the new beginning that was starting, for the kindness of strangers and the mysterious ways that goodness sometimes circles back around. Maya's mother held her daughter's face in her hands and said, "I always told you that kindness matters. I always told you to treat people right no matter what. See what happens when you live that way?" And Maya did see. She saw that $18.50 given freely without expectation had somehow turned into a life-changing opportunity. She saw that a simple act of compassion had opened doors she'd never dreamed possible. But more than that, she saw that Mr. Chen was right. Kindness wasn't meant to be paid back. It was meant to be paid forward. And someday, when she had her own cafe, she'd find someone who needed a chance, just like she'd needed one. She'd give them that chance. She'd keep the circle going, because that's what kindness does. It doesn't just change one life. It ripples outward, touching person after person, creating waves that spread farther than we can ever see. 6 months had passed since that life-changing Thursday afternoon, and Maya still sometimes had to pinch herself to make sure it was all real. She'd wake up in the morning, see her assistant manager badge on the nightstand, and feel a surge of gratitude that nearly brought tears to her eyes. The first thing that had changed was her mother's health. With the insurance coverage from her new position, her mother had gotten the surgery she needed. The recovery had been slow but steady, and now her mother was doing better than she had in years. She'd started cooking again, singing those old songs while she worked in the kitchen. Every time Maya heard that singing, her heart felt full enough to burst. The second thing that changed was Maya herself. Mr. Chen hadn't been joking about the training. He was teaching her everything, and it was intense. Some mornings, she'd arrive at 6 to go over the books with him, learning how to read profit and loss statements, understand food costs, and manage inventory. He'd quiz her on supplier negotiations, staff scheduling, and health code regulations. Running a restaurant isn't just about being nice to people, Mr. Chen had told her during one of their early sessions. That's important. Maybe the most important thing, but you also need to understand the business. You need to know your numbers or you'll fail no matter how good your heart is. Maya had thrown herself into learning with the same dedication she'd once put into double shifts. She took notes, asked questions, stayed late to observe Mr. Chen handling difficult situations. She watched how he dealt with a supplier who tried to overcharge, how he motivated a cook who was slacking off, how he handled a customer complaint with grace and authority. But Mr. Chen didn't just teach her business skills. He taught her philosophy too. A restaurant is like a family, he'd say. The staff needs to feel valued and respected. You take care of them, and they'll take care of your customers. But you also need to have standards. Kindness doesn't mean accepting poor work. Maya learned how to be firm when necessary while still being fair. She learned to have difficult conversations, to hold people accountable, to make tough decisions. It wasn't always easy. The first time she had to write up an employee for repeatedly showing up late, she'd felt sick about it. But Mr. Chen had been there to guide her. "You're not being mean," he'd explained. "You're being responsible. That employee's lateness affects everyone else who has to cover for them. Sometimes kindness means holding people to the standards they agreed to meet." The staff at the Riverside Grill had adjusted to the changes too. At first, some of the older employees had been resentful of Maya's sudden promotion. She'd been one of them just months ago, and now she was their boss. There had been whispers, some tension in the break room. But Maya had won them over slowly, the same way she'd always done things, by being genuine and working hard. She never asked anyone to do something she wouldn't do herself. If they were short-staffed, she'd jump in and wait tables. If the dishwasher called in sick, she'd roll up her sleeves and wash dishes alongside Danny. She remembered what it was like to be in their shoes because she'd been there so recently. One afternoon, Lisa had pulled her aside. "I was wrong about you," she'd said. "When you first got promoted, I thought maybe you'd gotten lucky, that you were just Mr. Chen's favorite. But you've earned this. You're a good boss, Maya. You actually care about us. That had meant more to Maya than any raise or title ever could. Mr. Chen also brought Maya to visit his other restaurants. They'd drive to different cities and he'd introduce her to his other managers, show her how each location operated. Maya saw places that were thriving and places that were struggling. She learned to spot the differences, to understand what made some restaurants successful while others barely survived. See how the manager greets every customer by name, Mr. Chen pointed out at one location. See how the staff smiles genuinely? That's culture. You can't fake it. It has to be real, and it starts at the top. At another restaurant, Maya noticed the staff seemed stressed and unhappy. The place was clean and the food was good, but something was off. What do you see? Mr. Chen asked her, testing her observation skills. The manager doesn't interact with the staff much, Maya said slowly, thinking it through. He stays in his office, and when he does come out, people seem nervous around him. They're doing their jobs, but there's no warmth. Mr. Chen nodded approvingly. Exactly. He runs a tight ship. The numbers are good, but he's forgotten the human element. I'm going to have to talk with him. A restaurant can survive on efficiency alone for a while, but it won't thrive. It won't become a place people love. These trips taught Maya that success wasn't just about following a formula. Every community was different. Every staff had its own personality, and a good manager had to understand and adapt to those differences while maintaining core values. As the months progressed, Maya and Mr. Chen started talking seriously about the cafe. They'd sit in his office after the dinner rush and Maya would share her ideas. She'd been sketching plans in a notebook, collecting pictures of cafe interiors she liked, thinking about the menu. I want a place that serves breakfast and lunch, Maya explained one evening. Good coffee, fresh pastries, simple sandwiches. Nothing fancy, but everything made with care. And I want a policy, written right on the menu, that says if someone can't afford to pay, they can work for their meal. Sweep the floor, wash dishes for an hour, whatever. Everyone eats, Mr. Chen had smiled at that. You know that policy will get abused sometimes. People will take advantage, maybe, Maya agreed. But I'd rather feed 10 people who could have paid than turn away one person who genuinely needs help. That's the right answer, Mr. Chen said. Never lose that, Maya. The world will tell you to be more practical, more cynical. Don't listen. That heart of yours is your biggest asset. They started scouting locations. Mr. Chen had his real estate contacts looking for the right spot. Something in a neighborhood that needed a good cafe. Somewhere Maya could make a real impact. They found a place 3 weeks ago. A small corner spot with big windows and good light. It needed work, but Maya could see the potential immediately. This is it, she'd whispered, walking through the empty space. Imagining tables and chairs, the smell of fresh coffee, the sound of conversation and laughter. Then this is it, Mr. Chen agreed. We'll start the renovation next month. But something else had happened in these 6 months, something Maya hadn't expected. She'd become a mentor herself. A new server named Nina had started at the Riverside Grill 2 months ago. She was 19, working her way through community college, struggling to make ends meet. Maya saw herself in Nina, saw that same determination mixed with exhaustion, so Maya had taken Nina under her wing. She taught her tricks for managing difficult customers, showed her how to organize her section efficiently, helped her understand the rhythm of restaurant work. When Nina had broken down crying one day because she couldn't afford her textbooks, Maya had been there. How much do you need? Maya had asked. I can't borrow from you, Nina had protested. You've already helped me so much. It's not a loan, Maya said. And I'm not just helping you. I'm paying forward something that was given to me. Someday, when you're in a position to help someone else, you do it. That's how this works. She'd given Nina the money for the textbooks, and seeing the relief and gratitude on the young woman's face had reminded Maya so powerfully of that rainy night 6 months ago. The circle was already continuing, already rippling outward. Now standing in the Riverside Grill at the end of another day, Maya looked around at the restaurant that had changed her life. Danny was wiping down tables, humming to himself. Lisa was counting out the register. Nina was carefully rolling silverware and napkins, doing it the exact way Maya had shown her. Mr. Chen came out of the office and stood beside Maya. Penny, for your thoughts? I was just thinking about that night, Maya said. The rainy night when you came in. If I'd known who you were, I might have acted differently. I might have been nervous or tried too hard to impress you. But you didn't know, Mr. Chen said. That's the whole point. You were just being yourself. You were just being kind because that's who you are. I spent $18.50, Maya said, shaking her head in wonder, and it changed my entire life. No, Mr. Chen corrected gently. You didn't buy a meal that night, Maya. You invested in kindness. You invested in human dignity. That's what changed your life. The money was just the vehicle. Maya nodded, understanding. And now I get to keep investing. With the cafe, with people like Nina, with everyone who walks through our doors and... Exactly, Mr. Chen said. You know, when I started testing restaurants 40 years ago, I'd almost given up hope. Place after place, I saw people who'd forgotten why we do this work. They'd forgotten that restaurants are about more than food. They're about community, connection, making people feel valued. He put a hand on Maya's shoulder. Then I met you. You reminded me why I fell in love with this business in the first place. You reminded me that there are still people out there who get it, who understand that how we treat each other matters more than anything else. You gave me everything, Maya said, her voice thick with emotion. I gave you an opportunity, Mr. Chen corrected. You're the one doing the work. You're the one growing and learning and becoming the person who's going to run that cafe and make it everything you've dreamed about. They stood there together in comfortable silence, watching the staff close up for the night. In a few months, Maya would be opening her own place. She'd be serving coffee and pastries, creating the welcoming space she'd always imagined. She'd be helping people, employing people, making a difference in her community. And hanging on the wall of her cafe she'd already decided would be a simple sign. Just a few words that captured everything she'd learned, everything she believed, everything she wanted to pass on. Kindness is never wasted. Because that rainy Tuesday night, when Maya had bought a stranger's dinner without knowing who he was, she hadn't just helped one person. She'd started something bigger, something that would keep growing and spreading, touching lives she'd never even meet. That's the thing about kindness. You never know where it will lead. You never know whose life you might change with one simple act of compassion. You never know when $18.50 might turn into a dream come true. And you never know when the struggling old man eating alone by the window might actually be someone who sees you, really sees you, and decides to bet everything on the goodness in your heart. Maya had learned that the hard way, the beautiful way, the way that changed everything, and now she'd spend the rest of her life making sure that lesson, that gift, that circle of kindness never stopped spinning.